appreciate your time, John.
Absolutely.
You have been very gracious to let me do interviews with you in the past regarding Alberta agriculture matters, and most recently about the WCI situation, Western Crop Innovations.
Yes.
Give our viewers a quick recap. The Field Crop Development Center was recently rebranded as Western Crop Innovations and is currently looking for members. Mm-hmm. And so you've been heavily involved in this. And from your angle, from your perspective, what's the sort of the latest update you can give us?
Well, thank you, first of all, Mark, for interviewing me this morning. It's always a pleasure to talk about seed variety development in Alberta and on the prairies. And certainly, I'm very pleased to talk about Western Crop Innovations. We're coming now to just about the end of what we called our interim year of operations. Since it was, you say, rebranded, we have incorporated as a not-for-profit, the Western Crop Innovation from the Field Crop Development Center. And the interim year has comprised such a busy year for transitioning new directors who are running the corporation, very talented Albertans who are deeply steeped and credible in the agricultural sector and in variety breeding. So we're at that point now where we're polishing a new business plan. The corporation entertains a different business model. It's very important to the government of Alberta that, first of all, public money be invested, and we don't stand on the sidelines, but it's also important to the provincial government that industry and academia are involved in the business model, and that has comprised a lot of work to embrace that new not radical but new business model, and to explore other opportunities in addition to the things that were highly successful at the Field Crop Development Center, and some things that maybe were gaps or that were opportunities not explored. So as the interim year, our fiscal year ends in March, 31 March, as we're coming now to the final home stretch, we're looking forward now to our second year and what that might look like and what other members we may entertain. Members are that important third ingredient, that private, that industry investment into the corporation. And I think a lot of them want to see, how did they fare? How did the board do through year one, the interim year? And will the other supports still be there, i.e. the provincial government? And so we're excited about what's coming. A lot of the provincial side is tied to our budgeting process, and our budget won't be public until February of this year. But so far, so good. And a real spirit of optimism and regeneration, I think, at Western Crop Innovation. The last thing, and I'm sorry for rambling. You can edit the heck out of this.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
But the last thing I would like to speak to, and the great constant in Lacombe, has been the staff. We have world-class scientists, technicians, economists that are all part of that team at Western Crop Innovation, some 22 odd folks. I am most pleased that we've retained like the 98th percentile of that team through what must have been a raucous period of transition, not only with the Olds pilot and what my government had done prior to the pilot, and certainly this tumultuous year of this interim operation. We've held on to them, and they are punching so far above their weight. I'm most pleased about that human element. And that is what will carry us and really drive the success going forward.
Before I let you go, I understand you have a military background. And I'm just curious, after spending time in the military, serving a country, how that has aided you in dealing with matters like this that concern our industry, the seed industry. If there's one big takeaway that you learned being in the military that you bring to your current role, what would that be?
Well, there are several that pop into my head, and like Churchill said, I'd like to have 3 hours to prepare for a 3-minute address. But I think some of the largest things that I've taken from my professional education as an Army officer are I guess, systems thinking, the importance of allies. It's friends and partners are crucial in anything you're trying to accomplish. And maybe that's probably the biggest takeaway for this interim year, and what led into the incorporation of WCI was talking to commissions, Alberta Beef, Alberta Grains, and I just cite them, but they're two of like hundreds of partners that we have been talking to, and I think that systems thinking and really crunchy, concise communication, transparency therein. These are precepts of military communication, but they have been particularly important in terms of having allies and friends as we try and honestly build forward a capacity for the prairies. And I should mention also our friends in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, because they have a lot going on there on variety breeding, and they have been super helpful with advice and interest as well in terms of the entity. So I think, yeah. And the other military takeaway is I've been to some horrible places on the planet, all expenses paid trips. And that does give you a sense of what true crisis is. And the situation was pretty desperate at one point for the Field Crop Development Center. And I think that does, having some exposure to those kind of hot temperature situations, it does help you stay calm when you're really not sure what the future holds or what the next step will be, but you just take it one trench at a time. Yeah.
One trench at a time. That's a good phrase. You see these phrases in business books and things, and I think that could be one trench at a time when you're in the trenches with people.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
100%, Mark, because so you can't get there from here for a lot of the most complex problems we're trying to solve. And the royalty system on the prairies, I shouldn't speak for all of Western Canada, but in Alberta, it needs some TLC. But you can't get there from here. You have to take a very deliberate approach and bring your allies and partners and producers along. And so you can use that. And I'll look for that in the next edition of Seed World.
I'll make sure I credit. Thank you so much, John.
It's always a pleasure talking with you. I'm glad I ran into you today.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks.